Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you guys give me a thumbs up or something and let me know if you can hear me? Hello, 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 hello. Well, ladies and gentlemen, while we are getting started and everybody is getting situated, I want to welcome you. My name is Glenda Baker. I am a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia, and I would like to welcome you to this live edition of Estate Media's community. Today it is co-listings and commissions. So, and you know what? Is there a chat? Oh, there is a chat. Stand by. Let me just look in the chat. All right, you can hear me. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so co-listings and commissions, how to navigate when and when to compromise. So this is a 30-minute workshop with a live Q&A. If you've got a question, just go ahead and drop it in the chat to the right. I will try and monitor that. If I don't get to it, which I'll continue to try and check it throughout our session, but if I don't get to it, somebody will get it to me. I'm sure we will answer that question. My name is real estate. I feel like my name is real estate. My name is Glenda Baker. I'm a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia. Some of you may know me from my videos that I post daily on social media, but today I want to talk a lot about co-listings and the benefits of co-listings. So really interesting. We do not co-list outside of our companies a lot here in Atlanta. It's not a practice that we see a lot that I see that happens definitely in LA, on the West Coast, all over California, Texas, New York, where it is very prevalent. It is not super prevalent here in Atlanta. What I do see a lot here in my market, though, is where something is not in my backyard, but it's definitely a product that I would sell. And so I will co-list it with an agent that is an area expert. So a lot of times what people bring me into is something that's maybe a little bit more difficult to sell, something that's maybe a little bit more high priced, something that's a little bit more unusual in this market. So that's kind of how the co-listings work here. But I want to talk a little bit about a good friend of mine, Jade Mills, who is in California. And she does a lot of co-listing outside of her company, where she will co-list with an agent from ABC Real Estate. And the reason that that happens is because the seller wants two brands. They feel like that the buyer demographic is reached by two different brands. So, and that's a lot of times where it is. And a lot of agents are resistant to do that. And let's talk a little bit about when it makes sense. I've got my outline over here. So if you guys see me kind of looking over here, this is my outline to keep me on track. Believe it or not, some people think that I get off track and go down a rabbit hole, which is sometimes possible. But when does it make sense to partner with another agent? I think it makes sense to partner with another agent. And I was on the phone this morning on a mastermind call, and we talked a little bit, are you the fool or are you the favor? When you go in for these listing appointments, you know, do they already have a preconceived notion with who they're going to work with? And you're just there to maybe either validate the listing price, validate the marketing strategy, or maybe fill the holes of a marketing strategy. And rather than being the fool, it always makes more sense if you can jump into the mix with either the agent that has favor or the agent that you know, is a family member. A lot of times, you know, their cousin, brother, aunt, uncle, mother's brother, cousin, aunt, uncle is an agent, and they're going to list with that person who may not be the best agent. They may have sold 3 houses in the last 3 years. And so they want somebody who's proficient at the listing and selling game, and so they'll bring you in. So when does it make sense? To me, it always makes sense. If you ever have the opportunity to get your foot in the door and you are presented with a co-list, or if it's outside of your market area, and a lot of times, like here in Atlanta, for me to get from one side of Fulton County to the other side of Fulton County, which I did the other day, it was an hour and 4 minutes from my office to this listing appointment. That doesn't make sense to me, but this person wanted to list their house with me, and they were going to list their house with me. And so what we did was I took somebody who it's in their market area, and that agent will deal with the sign calls and the lockbox and all of those things that require feet on the ground that don't make any sense for me to drive an hour there and an hour back. And interestingly enough, it was an hour and 4 minutes there and an hour and 26 minutes back, just based on Atlanta traffic. So if it's outside of your market area, I think it makes great sense. If it's outside, if you're an agent, you're newer. That was one thing that Jade talked about in our podcast that you can find on Glenda's Guru, is she talked about the first opportunity that she had, that she knew she couldn't do it by herself. So she brought in a more experienced agent, because 50% of the list side is better than zero. So I think that, don't be too big for your britches. Don't be too proud to bring in somebody else. And for whatever reason, you may need to do that. One of the most probably high profile listings that was listed with two brokers, and this was the Playboy Mansion. It was listed with my friend Gary Gold, and it was listed with Mauricio Umansky. So it was listed with two different agents, two different companies, and then another agent brought the buyer in. So I think that it's really important to understand, it doesn't matter the price range, it doesn't matter the area, it doesn't matter where you are. If you need to do that, then don't be too proud, go ahead and do it. So we talked a little bit about when to do it, when it makes sense. We've talked a little bit about the benefits, and think about it, like, not only are you getting your foot into a different market area, and Tracy Tudor, who is also in our community, a leader in our community. She probably is somebody who I think does the co-list probably better than anybody. And what she's actually done, and it's kind of a spin on the co-list, is she had a lot of people that were going from California to Texas, to Dallas, and to Austin. And not only did she find a co-list situation there, she had so much business there, she actually started a team in those markets. And so I think you want to think outside of the box. If you are in, so like I'm in Atlanta, I have a lot of people that go to Lake Oconee. I have a great referral partner out there, and we send a ton of business out there. And that may be something for me in the future, that we are going to get a co-list situation started, a co-list relationship, or maybe even start a team in that area. So challenges. The challenges are always the money and the responsibilities. So it's super important for you to define those things up front. I'm going to repeat that. I want everybody to hear that. It's very important for you to, number one, decide on that up front, put it in writing so there's no question, no confusion about, oh, wait a minute, you were going to do the flyer. Or, oh, wait a minute, you were going to do the open houses. Oh, wait a minute, you're responsible for following up with the showings. Like, all of those things need to be identified. Every single thing that you do during the listing, you need to make sure that that task has a person assigned to it, even if it's just, and that's just a good business practice, period, for you to make sure that you have a task list, you have a checklist of who's supposed to do what's supposed to be done, when is it supposed to be done, and who's handling it. So like for us, we have a checklist, we have a person assigned to every task, we have a timeline assigned to every task. So not only does it keep us on track, it also keeps the seller updated, keeps the seller on track of what we're doing. So negotiating a commission in a co-listing agreement. Now look, I am a big proponent of 50-50. And a lot of people are going to disagree, but it's my lead and it's my area and I'm going to do all the work. Look, if you got to bring somebody else in on the deal, there's a reason. And, you know, I always say pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. So, it's just, it's almost an investment in the relationship. It's really you identifying with the other agent that you know, there isn't one person who's more valued than the other. I am a big proponent of a 50-50 relationship when you go into a co-list. A lot of people do it different, and you need to figure out what works for you, what economics work for you, and why you're bringing in the other person. There's lots of dynamic that defines that, how you're going to split it. But for me, I always think that the cleanest way is to split it 50-50, period. And so, but you got to negotiate it. You got to make sure everybody's happy. And the most important thing is that it's a collaboration, and you want to make sure that there is that collaboration, and that everybody understands the value proposition that they're bringing to the table. When to consider compromising on your fee. And let's kind of talk a little bit about commissions. And it's funny that we're talking about this afternoon. I have a call every Wednesday morning with a group of agents, and what we talk about is real estate in real life in real time. And I asked the question in this mastermind, have you ever ever in your entire career, are you an agent that has never given a dollar? You've never given a penny. Your fee is your fee. You've never negotiated it. You've never paid for a warranty. You've never paid for a repair. You've never bought a refrigerator. You've never bought a washer dryer. You've never had it cleaned. Like, raise your hand if that's you. And not one single person, there's 100 people on this call, not one single person could raise their hand and say, I have never, ever not contributed. And so, and it's just, the commissions are negotiable, period. And a lot of times, you know, and I told the story about my own mother. I was a new real estate agent, y'all. I was brand spanking new. And I think it was in like my first, maybe it was my second transaction. I think it was my second transaction. St. Clair, 42 St. Clair Lane. Is that scary that I remember that 32 years ago? Oh, and it was in January. Oh, my stars and stripes. It was literally 32 years ago this month. 42 St. Clair Lane. I had the buyer. We were this close on the deal. And I told my mom, I said, Mommy, I said, they want me to give up $500. I remember this 32 years ago. 500 was probably like 5,000 back in the olden days. And my mom said, Pumpkin, X% of the sales price is always better than X% of the list price. And I was like, what? She's like, you know, if you don't give up the $500, you make zero. She is, what's more, the $500 are the money you're going to make. Keep your eye on the ball. And that was such a huge lesson to me early in my career. So I never, ever abdicate for subsidizing people's house. I never, ever advocate for, you know, you pitching in the money. But sometimes if you've got to get the deal across the finish line, Let's just get it to the end zone. I remember there was a girl, Jennifer Sperlin, and it's today. Today's her birthday. Jennifer's birthday is the same day as Elvis. Jennifer Sperlin. She said, Glenda, it's just easier for me to kick it in, pay for the warranty, and keep moving, because everybody's going to argue about it. She says, if I just pay for that warranty, I'm a hero. Those people are going to stick with me for the rest of their life. And that girl has more repeat and referral business than anybody I've ever met. And today is her birthday. Happy birthday, Jennifer. So if you have to reduce it, you have to reduce it. The most important thing is to get paid, though. But I don't want to see you doing that over and over and over again. Now, we've talked a little bit about the situation where compromising makes sense, high volume clients, repeat business. And, I got to tell you, I have a client, Wagner, and Wagner, he always wants a discount. And so the last time he hit me up, I looked at him, I said, do you know how much money you're going to make on this townhouse that I sold you? Y'all sit down and grasp tightly. I sold him that townhouse for $42,000. I sold that thing for $309,000. That guy made a truckload of money, and he was trying to get away with paying me $3,000 less. And I'm like, really? Really? He's like, okay, Glenda, okay. Now look, I've sold this guy 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 houses. And it's this opposite mentality, like, do you give them the discount because it's a frequent flyer mile? Or do you get more because you made them so much damn money? And that's the thing, is like, how do you articulate your value proposition and your ability to articulate it well? The value that you bring to the transaction is in direct correlation to the value and the money that you are paid. Keep that in mind. Now, and we talked a little bit about the reduction and the compromise. Now, how do you explain to clients the value that they receive from a co-listing agreement arrangement? Y'all, easy peasy lemon squeezy. 2 heads are better than 1. I mean, it's just that simple. And also, I think that it's really a great opportunity for 2 people that think very differently about the market, the buyer. And so you're really covering the gamut of the marketing strategy. You're covering the gamut of reverse engineering into who is the buyer. So I want to make sure that you're thinking about that you're thinking about all of the advantages of bringing another person in. I have a team, and so we have a lot of different skill sets. You got Eveline, who is literally a soldier. She brings a different skill set than I do. You got Elizabeth. She is literally the rock in the shoe. She is so persistent with the follow-up with every person that's shown it, every open house guest, every other agent. Like, you bring just a different dynamic. And to me, I think that a lot of times when you co-op, especially on a listing, it's like the energy feeds off each other, and you really get this incredible momentum. So I would encourage you. To me, I think it's an amazing opportunity. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've never ever had a seller that objected to a co-listing situation, especially when the agents got along well. And a lot of times the seller is prepared to pay more when there's more agents involved. So don't think that you're going to have to split just what one agent would get. If you're bringing 2 powerhouses together, I mean, think about it. I mean, honestly, I think that if you put me and Tracy Tudor on a listing together, we would probably be priceless. Like, a seller, there probably isn't any amount of commission that a seller could pay us that would really be worthy of the value that we would bring to that client. And I think that you've got to be able to go in with that confidence, go in with that bravado. I always say I'm the Michael Jordan of real estate. I honestly believe that about myself. So I have no qualms about when I'm talking to the seller, articulating the value proposition that I'm bringing. And especially if you're bringing somebody else in, you're bringing them in for their expertise and their strategy. So the seller paying more on that to get two agents of great expertise, to me, I think it's a no-brainer, to be quite honest with you. But you always want to present a united front. You always want all of the communication to be together. For us, whenever we do that, everything is communicated in the group text. Everything is communicated in a group email. Every single update, every single thing is done together. Because they're paying for two agents, they're looking for two agents, they've hired two agents or more than one agent. You want to make sure that you have a united front, that the right hand knows what the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, and you want to make sure that you guys are definitely in sync with that. Now, oh, interesting. I love this question. So, let's talk a little bit about buyer's market versus seller's market. And the buyer's market is really interesting. I always argue that the listing agent is more valuable in a buyer's market than they are in a seller's market. Because in a seller's market, I mean, come on, like we went through that, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where we had a buyer's market and I couldn't get them on the market fast enough until I had multiple offers and they were flying off the market. So I would argue that the listing broker is more valuable in a buyer's market because your ability to convey the value of the property is so much more important to get them to pay the most amount of money in the least amount of time. So again, it kind of goes back to, what is your value proposition? Do you have the ability to articulate it? And do you believe it? I think that we are really struggling right now, especially with the new NAR policies, and buyer agents are struggling because I honestly believe they don't believe in their value. Like, they don't know what value they bring to the table. And I think that that's why a lot of buyer's agents are struggling. I always try and stay on the listing side because everybody knows that the listing agent controls the inventory, controls the market. But you need to believe in your value proposition, and you need to be able to have that confidence, that certainty, that clarity when you're in communication with the seller. Okay? All right, so how do you leverage the market conditions? We talked a little bit about that. When it's a buyer's market, the listing agent is more valuable, I think. And knowing when to stand firm. My friend Justin Conoco, and I love Justin Conoco, he's an agent out of London, Ontario, Canada. And one of the things that he always says is, hey, you can always find somebody to do it cheaper or even for free. That's not me. But why would you trust your largest single asset to somebody who's willing to do it at a discount? And Justin is on this call with me every Wednesday morning, and he says, you built this house. Everything you did to it is top shelf. You use the absolute best building materials. Every improvement, every finish is top of the line. Why in the world would you go bottom of the barrel for a real estate agent? I thought that was such a great question. So I will tell you right now, I think that it is critical to believe in your value, to stand firm in that, and to charge the fee that you think that you're worth. One thing that's always made me crazy is LeBron James and Trae Young don't make the same money because LeBron James is 20 years in the league and a proven expert. And Trey Young, now he's been in the league 5 years, but he's still not a LeBron James. Come on, give me a break. Why would they get paid the same? Right? So why would I get paid the same as the person who graduated from real estate school 3 days ago? That makes no sense to me. Like, I can't even in my head, I can't even like comprehend that. That's just incomprehensible to me. So know your value and know your expertise. Now, we have a question, and y'all, I'm sorry. You know, I broke my glasses, my other glasses that are clear. So these are not my great glasses, but it says, what advice would you give to buyer agents who feel unsure about their worth? I'm going to tell you right now, the advice I would give to those agents is to sit down with the last 3 houses, the last 5 houses, the last 10 houses that you sold, and make a case study. Go back to those buyers and say, why did you decide to work with me? Make a case study about how you helped them, and then put what was the result. So why did they work with you? What did you do? And what was the result? And that right there will tell you how to create your value proposition. Interview the people that worked with you and say, why did you work with me? How did I help you? And what was the result? When you look back at the transaction of working with me, what was it that you will take away, that you will remember, that you will always work with me no matter how many houses you buy and no matter how far in the future, you'll never ever forget the result that I got you. And I think that that is critical to your own discovery of the value that you bring to the transaction. My friend Andy C. in California, he says, and he says it with so much bravado, he's like, I sell all of the houses in Saratoga Springs. There isn't anybody who knows every buyer and every listing and what every buyer is willing to pay. I mean, like, my head blew up when he said that. Like, think about it. I know everybody looking for a house in my neighborhood. And I know everybody in my neighborhood that would sell and what they would sell for. There is an inherent value with that. And so go back to the last 3, 5, 10 houses that you sold where you represented a buyer, interview those buyers and say, why did you work with me? What value did I bring to the table? And of the result that you got the house that you wanted at 123 Banana Street. What was the most important thing about that result? And then create a case study so then you have the ability to show and tell your value as a buyer's agent. So I hope that I answered that question. Now, there's 48,000 other things that I'm probably supposed to get to here. Understanding your strengths and weaknesses, we talked about that. Don't y'all love that I don't even need the outline, just with all the stories that you get and everything that I say, it just kind of all the stuff comes out. How to position yourself, expertise in the market, negotiating for additional responsibilities, market leadership. We talked all about that. I got through all of my bullet points. I love, love, love that. Now, I think that we have got maybe a little bit of time for Q&A. I'm sure that somebody on the back end is going to tell me if we have that, or if we have any questions that I need to answer in our chat. You guys are going to let me know that. How does the market affect commission negotiation? Well, sit down and grasp tightly, because it affects the hell out of it. Because that's the thing, is like you need to understand the market. You need to understand the demand for the product. You need to understand, are there lots of multiple offer situations? If there's lots of multiple offer situations, your value as a real estate agent, both buy side and sell side, is critical. To me, I mean, could you imagine Bobby and Susie, the seller, don't have a real estate agent and they get 5 offers on their house? Now, they don't negotiate for a living. They don't know that John and Joni, who are only putting down 3% and getting a VA loan or a FHA loan, and they've got $12 in the bank, but because they've offered $50,000 over the list price, And Bobby and Susie, the seller, said, this is the highest offer. We go with this offer. They don't know the nuances of how to negotiate, and maybe this other offer that's only 40,000 over the list price is really the more sure bet. And can you negotiate that person up? They don't have that ability. So the market conditions absolutely dictate, number one, your value as a real estate agent, but your ability to charge more. I will be honest with you. I think with the new NAR policy changes, I think that the best real estate agents will make more money. Just like doctors. I mean, think about it. If you're going to a heart doctor, are you going to the heart doctor that has the least experience, or are you going to the heart doctor that has the most experience? And are you willing to pay the heart doctor who has the most experience more? If they're out of network, are you willing to pay them more all day, every day, and twice on Sunday? Same damn thing. It's just what it's exactly like is, and I tell this story. I've told this story many times. And because we're in a closed community, I'll tell you guys the story. But I'll change the names to protect the innocent. There was a football player who got in trouble here in Atlanta, and he went to the best criminal attorney. The owner of the football team took him to the best criminal attorney, and that attorney was going to charge him $1 zillion. And instead of using that attorney, he chose to use a different attorney that did not have the experience necessary. And that football player went to jail on something that probably wasn't really like, it wasn't something that would have had mandatory jail time. It was bad, but wasn't horrible, terrible bad, right? And then another football player got in trouble here in Atlanta. Don't ask me how that happens. And he uses the $1 zillion attorney. And that football player does something horrible, terrible. But because he paid the $1 zillion to that great attorney that had amazing expertise, he never went to jail. So don't discount yourself. Market conditions absolutely impact your value. And the better that you are at your craft, the more you deserve to be paid. So don't think that market conditions or policy changes or settlements dictate your value. That is not at all the case. Trust me on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know that we have any more questions. My name is Glenda Baker. I'm sure that somebody's going to tell me if there is another question, but my name is Glenda Baker. I'm a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia. I am so thankful that you spent your afternoon here with me. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you did, we want to hear about it. Tell us that you are loving, loving, loving this community. And don't just tell us, tell your friends. Tell your friends that you are getting something here in the estate media community that you can't get anywhere else, because this advice is for you guys only. My name is Glenda Baker. I will look forward to talking with you guys real soon on my next live session. See ya.